Hi everyone, I'm Vladimir Dutia. As we saw in the CBSN original, Speaking Frankly, dating apps, these apps offer the hope of a romantic connection. But what are you giving away in exchange? I spoke with CNET senior producer Dan Patterson about how these dating apps are designed to collect data even when they aren't in use. So Dan, how big of a concern is data gathering when it comes to dating apps, which you wouldn't associate the two?
Right, except that, Vlad, I'm sure you've heard this cliche, data is the new oil, right? So you and your phone, you have a kind of a small stake in data being the new oil. And if you think about every app on your phone as valuable in some way, right? Your weather app wants to gather your location so it can show you your latest weather forecast. The same thing with a dating app, except that the information that you share is not just your location, although that's certainly included. It is all kinds of sensitive information that in many cases you might not even share with your friends and family. This is intimate information, so it is not just commoditized, it's highly exclusive, valuable information.
So instead of focusing on helping users find love, these apps seem to be focused more on getting you to interact with the app in the hopes that you give away more personal information. It's like an insidious farm bill.
Well, it is using incentives to extract value. So that's a lot of euphemistic talk for, okay, the incentives being love, sex, relationships, marriage, things that are pretty basic, pretty human, right? Using those to drive what we use in the industry, the jargon, which is engagement. So the more engagement means the more data. Think of it like this. Again, if data is the new oil, a pool of oil, and you're standing in that pool. If you don't move, there's no ripples. But with every movement, more ripples. Each ripple is a data point, and the more movement you make, the more engagement, the more data the app has to send back home.
So to optimize the use of these apps, you essentially have to allow it to gather your location data even when you aren't using it. I generally turn off my location services on my phone except for a few specific apps like Google Maps. Is that by design?
Well, app makers, especially dating app makers, tend to use what we call dark pattern design. Now, this sounds fairly nefarious, but it's not really evil. It's just something that is designed to, once again, keep you engaged with the app. So you might see, for example, if you use a ride-sharing app like Uber or Lyft, you'll see a bunch of cars around you. That's not usually a representation of actual cars around you. It's a visualization of cars that could be around you to make you feel as though you have a lot of options. The same thing with a dating app. You may be kind of bored and ready to tune out, dial into something else, but if you see pictures of people around you who look enticing, these pictures aren't served randomly. They're based on that data that you gave to the app. So you might dial out, close the app, do something else. Instead, you see an attractive picture, you spend more time in that app.
So I guess it feels almost as if people have a blind spot when it comes to giving away their data, because at the end of that rainbow is the promise of a relationship or sex or something that generally lowers the guard of folks who might not be inclined to give away so much information.
Yeah, well, incentives keep us engaged, and it really doesn't matter what those incentives are. In this case, dating apps use incentives to gather highly sensitive information and be able to use that information in a number of different ways, including advertising.
So where does the data go?
Well, you would think that the data goes right back into your experience as a user, and in a lot of cases it does. Think Amazon or Netflix, but for dating apps, right? So oftentimes the machine learning or the artificial intelligence uses your data, your likes, your dislikes, your preferences to serve you up information, people that you may like. However, that information is valuable in other circumstances. In fact, we found in 2016 there was a group of Danish scientists who extracted publicly available information from OkCupid to perform a number of psychological tests. Those are still kind of opaque. We also saw that information that was uploaded to OkCupid that was visual, so pictures of people, was scraped and fed into a facial recognition algorithm. Why? Because algorithms need data in order to be more precise.
So are these apps and these developers selling the information to this company, or is it just readily available out there?
Well, it's both of those things,
Wow.
Vlad. Sometimes your data is readily available, and it's important to check the privacy settings and the terms of service that none of us actually look at. Again, going back to the case of OkCupid, this was information that was available to be scraped in the public. But often information is stored in a way that is ambiguous. So some of the same companies that had a stake in OkCupid also had a stake in an artificial intelligence company. So they were related and shared data based on that relationship. That data was then used to train AI systems that were unrelated to the reasons they were uploaded to OkCupid.
So if you're part of a company that might gather financial data on somebody, whenever you start to work at any company, generally they ask for credit rating, or they look at your credit rating, for example. Would buying or creating an app, buying into a company that creates these apps, or creating your own app, allow you to complete a more well-rounded user profile of the person you're potentially hiring?
The information that we share into dating apps or any type of application can and often is used by credit monitoring agencies, by health insurance companies. So if you tell your health insurance company or your doctor that you don't smoke, but you upload photos of you smoking, this can affect your ratings, and it can affect your insurance prices. So what we've seen is really that dating applications are really just data applications, and they kind of open the doorway towards gathering information that can be used in a number of different ways that you didn't anticipate.
Wow. So when it comes to data security, I guess, are we talking about the exchange of giving up data for the sake of convenience? That's generally what people think of. Are these dating apps offering a similar trade-off?
Well, we think that we kind of live in this world where security and convenience are in this delicate balance, right? The realities are that the information that we provide to app companies is disproportionately more valuable than what we get in return. And that data doesn't just decay or die with that company. In many cases, we see that data is combined from one app to another app into master lists or larger sets, and that this information is used in ways that we just can't anticipate. So that balance of security and privacy versus convenience is great in theory. In practice, it's very imbalanced, and consumers kind of get the short end of the stick.
I generally, when I'm signing up for a new app, do not sign up or sign into the app using my Facebook profile. Sometimes they give you the option, you want to sign in as using your Facebook profile, or do you want to sign in with your email and go through the manual input steps? I generally opt for the latter. Is that, in my mind, I feel like I'm giving away less by allowing this company to mine whatever I have in Facebook. Is that right, or are they both equally giving of me and of my data and privacy?
Yeah, so when you register for an app, you might be tempted to use a Facebook or a social login like Google has or Apple has. In theory, we are giving up less when we use our email address instead. In practice,
In theory, yeah.
In practice, there is a number of technologies and tactics. One is called cookie syncing. So we see every activity that we make drops what's called a cookie. It's a little text file that describes our activity on a site. This can include our usernames, our passwords, and tech companies have figured out how to sync a cookie from your phone to your television, to your computer, to your social login. So it really doesn't matter if you are using a social login or not using a social login. There is more than enough data available about you in order to sync your profiles and create a master list about you.
If I deleted my cookie folder every day, would that somewhat help?
No.
No. Okay, so let's use a specific example here. The dating app Grindr has over 27 million users and was recently sold to a Chinese company, as you know. And now the U.S. government is demanding that the Chinese company sell the app for security purposes. Are there legitimate concerns that foreign governments can gain access to personal data from apps like Grindr?
Yeah, there's a number of security concerns that foreign governments are harvesting data from apps that we use here in the United States. particularly China. Look, the managed capitalism model in China, the way the security establishment here in the United States looks at that as, look, this is just a doorway, it's a gateway, so that these private companies interface with the Chinese government in a way that your data flows unimpeded from the company to the government into databases that are then used for a number of reasons. Artificial intelligence and to train algorithms is one of those reasons. Look, you should exercise concern no matter what you are giving away, especially when you use apps and dating apps. But dating apps that lead to China are opening a doorway into a foreign country that is using your data to train algorithms and use databases in order to monitor what we're doing here in the United States and our relationships with other countries.
And with that eye-opening information that you've provided, Dan Patterson, as always, we thank you.
Good to see you.